Will Dumfries be that new signing that Florentino is going to announce tomorrow? Responding most likely to what Riquelme announces today, whom he has already referred to by name, or at least I think so, in the interview with the newspaper El Español with Jorge Calabres, which we're going to read right away, because he said some very interesting things. Is Florentino in a strong position? I think, listen to what I'm saying, I think that in a way, and also because he's been advised to, he is. And if we used to say that he never had to react to anything, that Florentino sells himself and all that in a good way, in a very good way. Here, the other person isn't setting the pace for him, not at all, but he is responding to things. It's obvious. You just have to listen to Florentino. And I think that in sports, he's doing the right thing, because maybe at first, thank you. The campaign, or in the first stage of this electoral campaign on Florentino's part, was not to announce anyone. However, yes, it has to be seen, as is now required, even though he says, and now you're going to see how he criticizes the agreements that, in theory, Enrique Riquelme has reached with some players. You'll find it funny because of the way he refers to it. And what Riquelme supposedly tells these players is incredible. We're going to read it now in El Español. But I insist about Dumfries. Well, last night, a little later, after I made the video where we pretty much took it for granted because it's being talked about a lot, about the Dutch right back from Inter, well, Fabrizio Romano was already saying the famous, "Here we go." Look, I always put an asterisk or an explanation in parentheses with this guy. It is what it is. The other day, he stole some information from this guy, Joel. I think that's his name. I don't want to get it wrong, about the Cesar Palacios thing. And well, it is what it is, right? But on very few occasions, if not practically never, when he makes a post like this, a signing falls through afterwards. On very few occasions, same thing. This could be one of those times, since it depends on some elections, but I don't think so, and I don't believe either of those two things, okay? I'm confident Florentino will win, since he accepted last night and nearly everything was settled. I'm not sure if this will be Florentino's first acknowledged signing, or if he'll talk about Mourinho's instead. We'll see, because, and we also know he's around with Konate and all those who are coming back, the ones we mentioned yesterday, Hendrik, Nico Paz, Victor Munoz, and all for less than 50 million, all these players, which is great to start a summer that has to be about shaking things up. Shaking things up, which also means departures. They're already talking about Ceballos, who is already far along with Mitchell's Ajax, which he was with until recently. Girona's coach led them to the Champions League one year, then to the second division the next, but he's still a good coach. Mitchell has gone to Ajax in the Netherlands, precisely, and it seems he wants Ceballos to join him there. It would be a very interesting move. We've been waiting for it to happen for quite some time now. Well, but besides that, they're going to have to get Dan Fritz another jersey, and maybe me too, although I don't know if I'll buy another one. Yes, friends, this one and no other. Look, it's been said. Listen, this has been said for a year now, The new jersey for 26-27. And we were saying, no, I can't believe it. I mean, it's impossible for Madrid. We've worn pink before, but green, what's green doing there? Hey, green too. There might be someone here who says, now everything seems wrong to you. Do you remember? I've said this for a year. When this jersey came out, I said it doesn't represent Real Madrid. Sorry. And anyone now, because it's very easy to write and all that, will say, I think everything is wrong. I say it again, since I saw it a year ago, I didn't like it because these colors just don't. And we've had second and third kits in weird colors, sure, but that's the second or third kit at a certain point. Okay, but in the first kit to already put pink and green, damn, what do you want me to say? No, I'm not too excited about it, but hey, they even made a promotional video with this. Look, I haven't even seen it. Now Bellingham shows up. When was the last time he did this? Well, I scored a goal recently. It's true that in the last match, but yeah. There we can already see them with the jersey. Man, look, Linda Casero, also Hausen, Bellingham, Brahim, Atenea. Well, here they all are, and that's it. The goalkeeper's one, well, it's more sober black, right? Okay. Let's see. As we keep seeing it, we're going to like it more for sure, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll say the same thing I've always said. I'm not excited about it. Not at all. I like Real Madrid's jersey with its usual colors, especially the first one, the home kit, and especially putting yellow, that golden yellow there. Like this one had, in fact, it had it when I used to wear it. Our footballers, which I like, even this year's jersey has had a thinner yellow line, right? Golden. In fact, the one I like the most, I can say that the one I like the most, and even though in the 14th we had that reminiscence of the 10th, right? It was the orange line. Well, okay, but it was very thin. Here it's 3 pink stripes, man, 3 pink lines. Well, Adidas doesn't like us, man. They don't like us. But anyway, let's go with Florentino, who has said some things. Oh my, he says, I don't believe anything about Riquelme. Obviously, he hasn't closed the deal with Rodri. Interview? Well, no, I'm getting this from Marca. Since El Español might have released the interview, but it could be behind a subscription. The interview might be complete, though I could be mistaken. But here's a summary anyway. Riquelme says, I'm going to say Riquelme, Florentino, that tomorrow he's going to announce that first signing, he says. We'll have names before Sunday. Relax, people don't doubt it. People know me. I've always generated excitement during the 23 years I've been president. And look, that's true. I'm saying it here myself. There have been years, even stretches of 2 or 3 years of saying, Florentino, spend some money. Still, he's made many Madrid fans' dreams come true by signing players, especially starting with Figo. He says, during the 23 years I've been president, those who know me know that the best players will be at Real Madrid and that we'll win a Champions League or two. He says, regarding signings, stating that on Thursday, I'll announce the first big signing. In fact, according to what this newspaper has learned, the first two to join will be Konate and Dumfries to strengthen the defense. About the coach, when asked about Mourinho, he only replied, I'll announce it soon, and commented on the announcement. About Enrique Riquelme, and on Sunday, when he stated that Raul Gonzalez would be his sporting director. If he wins, he says it seems fine to me, but I'm not sure if he's talked to him. Agents are calling me who tell me that Riquelme already says Riquelme's name. I don't know if when transcribing it, they took that liberty, but at least he's already saying it. He says, agents have called me and told me that Riquelme talks to players and tells them, don't say no, right? I don't believe anything from him. One of the signings was said to be Rodri, but obviously it's not a done deal, says Florentino. No, that thing about don't say no. Do you remember we used to say that, of course, if someone announces a signing, a name, and then that person's circle or he himself denies it, the campaign falls apart. Look, when someone tries Dallies, especially being a candidate, obviously, he'll tell the guy, hey, don't go public with this because you'll ruin it for me. Since nothing is finalized, it's not a done deal, it's not signed. I don't know if it's a verbal agreement with Rodri, with whoever Riquelme is announcing today, with Raul or with the coach. I don't know if they're just verbal agreements or if there's something signed. Watch, and I'll discuss it in the next video. Because of Cristiano, yes, that Calderon, who was disastrous for Madrid, especially due to the events in that assembly. But Calderon did two good things. The rest was disastrous. I want this to be very clear. One, Mijatovic was a great sporting director. And another, signing Cristiano. The thing is, I hadn't seen those documents about Cristiano, the ones signed a year before. Well, I'll tell that in the next video. Otherwise, we're going to mix up too many things here. Well, Florentino, he also insisted again on what, in his opinion, are lies from Riquelme, about whom he says, I don't know him very well. Although I do know his father, who was on Ramon Calderon's team, and he never misses an opportunity to remind us of that. And he has no doubt that he would have signed the loan with CVC, that Riquelme would have signed the loan with CVC, that the league offered to the professional football clubs. Everything Riquelme says is like a TV show. Everything is a lie, says Florentino. He says he's coming to save Real Madrid and he has to ask for a loan at 54% interest for his company. That doesn't make sense. Let's see. Florentino keeps going on about this, just like Riquelme keeps saying that Florentino said we need a strong Barca. I think because Bloomberg already said this wasn't the case, I think, right? I don't really know enough about economics on this, but come on. Who takes out a loan at 54% interest? But even someone who doesn't know much can see that. That's it. That's disastrous. That's impossible. There was a more complex explanation, and actually in Bloomberg's correction, the Bloomberg writer explained it that way, but put like that, it isn't true. Florentino, that's not true. Just like when Riquelme says that Florentino said we need a strong Barca, that's not true either. Just like what Riquelme says about privatization in absolute terms, that's not true either. Now, we'll talk about that for a moment, because last night on El Partidazo de Cope, the reporter from El Mundo who wrote that article we told you about spoke, right? But I insist. What happens is that during the campaign, they go all out, they go to the extreme, they go heavy on everything, and well, they hardly ever backtrack on anything, right? Especially when there might be a thread of truth in what they're saying or something that actually matches up, then they don't backtrack and keep going with it. Well, Florentino spoke again about specific names and made his argument tougher. Speech against those he believes want to destroy Real Madrid. He claims all the bad ones have united. Those from Calderon, Tebas, the Federation, and that dark period, all trying to take over Real Madrid again at any cost. There are people who buy what Florentino is saying. There are people who buy what Florentino is saying. Yesterday, for example, Riquelme spoke. We saw it on the show with Jordi Wild and so on about Tebas. And well, take a look, okay? Because even though I would like him to be more forceful with him and with the Negreira issue and so on, I think he did what some already expected him to do. Hey, don't just sit on the fence with certain things. And Florentino here, same thing. He goes to the extreme, and there are people who buy into this. There are people who believe the other guy has horns and a tail and that he's the devil and that he's here, well, to ruin Madrid. Well, okay. They want to take over the club for their own personal benefit, something I haven't done at any point in these 26 years. The members and the ownership model, well, it says, with me, Real Madrid will always belong to its members. That's how Florentino started. In his explanation of the ownership model, which he wants to take to a referendum within the club, what do I want to do? Forbes values Real Madrid at $10 billion, but I believe it's worth more and think this wealth should go directly to the members. The method and steps are clear. How we'll proceed will be studied, debated, and voted on in a member referendum. I want to move from the romantic idea of being a member to making it something tangible and real. Also, it's a way to protect the club in the future from cases like the amendments to the sports law that Tebas tried to impose through a lobby called Assento. To PSOE and PP deputies, this thing with Assento is really serious. That's true. And also both PSOE and PP people are involved, right? They warned me, so I made sure the sports law didn't take Real Madrid members' assets. Without that warning, the league would have succeeded. Man, of course, these are very strong words. I think not. I think they should have changed. Florentino, you clearly know what you're talking about. But damn, changing that overnight seems very difficult to me. But well, about this topic, the idea of giving each member $100,000 or euros. If we're talking dollars, 10 billion for Real Madrid equals $100,000, right? The idea of giving it to each of us has me really confused, because if you told me, hey, Florentino forever, give it to me as soon as possible, right? But you keep it. It's yours, but not really, since you can't sell it. If you can't sell something, is it truly your property? Why? Because to sell it, you'd have to sell it to another member who couldn't get in. And besides, I've been a member for over 40 years, and someone who just became one, like Naslagari, who's only been a member for 3 years, what happens then? I've been paying my membership fee for a long time, and I'm going to have the same as the other guy who's only been a member for 3 years or 2 or even just a month. These are things that just don't make sense, and they were saying it yesterday on Cope's Big Match, talking with that reporter from El Mundo, and he said something else. He said, look, in this, neither Florentino nor Riquelme is lying. Florentino isn't lying for the sake of it. Everything he's saying, I've always said the same, shows he doesn't want to cause trouble, steal the club, or privatize it. I'll explain clearly now, as there's still a risk. The other person is also truthful about possible privatization. But of course, like I said before, they base their arguments on things that are true, they hide other things, and they always go to the extreme. I was saying be careful, because with this subsidiary that Florentino Perez wants to create at Real Madrid, so that it manages everything related to television rights, football, basketball, and so on. If you do that and empty the rest of the club of content so that it's just a members club, the sports law can force you to, like, hey, what are you doing? I mean, it can make you do something you shouldn't and force you to become a corporation. To get to that point, it's the same as what Florentino says here about Tebas wanting to steal the club from the members. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, and something big would have to happen. But when you open the door maybe to sell 5% and you create that company and all, you're opening the door for example, later selling 10%. And then the law forces you to do something. And the Overton window, what seemed impossible, then they're going to explain to you that in the end, we just had to do it. It's unbelievable. Just look at what happened. It's those really bad people forcing us. But don't worry, I'll protect the club. Instead of selling a set percentage as required, We'll just sell less since they're forcing us. This has been around, let's be honest, this has been invented since day one of the world and politics. But anyway, Alilo says this. Valentino talks about Riquelme's accusations that the club is in debt and needs money before June 30th. He says, if the other candidacy claims we're the richest club in the world and in debt, then how are the other Spanish teams doing? He's right here. He says it's a lie that a valuation is needed for the loan to renovate the stadium. The loan has an interest rate below 3, and there are still $1 billion left to pay. The stadium is paid annually with the income it is already generating, but also with what we mentioned in the previous video. That's true. The stadium planned to host concerts we hadn't held in 2 years, which would have brought in a lot of money. When those didn't happen, maybe they'll return. They told us no, but said it wouldn't have been that much money anyway. Entonces, so that reporter from El Mundo, who spoke very well, honestly, and who mentioned it already on Cope's Partidazo, said, they tell us, everyone tells us the same thing. Let's take it with a grain of salt, just the same, that Real Madrid is financially stable. Financially, it's not as good as it might seem. I insist, I really don't know. I only believe my club's financial statements. They tell me it's fine, but I don't know. But if you want to know how much the club is worth by selling just a 0.1%, you already know how much the club is worth. Why a 5? Because 500 would come in, 500 million would come in. And of course, that's very tempting. And it might make people think maybe we need the money and they're hiding it from us. But I'm not saying it's one thing or the other because I don't have the data. I'm missing information. What I want here is to consider all the possibilities, or at least from this channel, to inform you without putting on blinders, without sticking to an official version. In life, you have to doubt everything. You have to question everything, especially if things are explained to you in bits and pieces and in a somewhat confusing way. Well, finally, they emphasize that concerts will return to the Bernabeu, that they will work with the authorities. In fact, Ayuso has said that concerts have to come back. He says all singers want to perform here, even the Pope. Anyone criticizing the stadium disrespects Real Madrid, not him. Well, you can criticize the stadium in the sense that from the outside, I've always told you, I'm not really enthusiastic about how it looks from the outside. And I think it turned out differently than what we were promised, at least on the outside. On the inside, it's wonderful visually. But when it comes to the food services and all that, in the hallways where you go to buy something, look, we're having doubts about the food again. But it's true, I thought it was going to turn out even better. I mean, I'm satisfied with the Bernabeu, yes. I don't complain that much about the seats being very narrow either. Well, look, when I go to a soccer game, I'm so tense that I don't care if I have to sit on the edge. I mean, but there are people who complain about that too, but I'm satisfied. Don't try to make me believe things that aren't true because some things didn't happen as promised. Damn. Well, about one of his big projects, the Infinite Bernabeu, he says that anyone, anywhere in the world can watch a game as if they were right there in the stadium. He says, Riquelme criticized the project, and it's true that he said, with some glasses that are discontinued, Riquelme said, and I said, damn, could it be true? Porque I recently saw the Apple glasses when they launched. It was a big deal. I went to see them and all. I tried them. They're amazing. But it's true that lately, I mean, that was something that just faded away. Hey, I checked and they were indeed discontinued. Apple has stopped their production and all, although not completely. And they're going to do a new reformulation, a redesign. But it wasn't what they expected. It wasn't what they expected because they're very expensive, these ones. Well, Riquelme takes advantage of that and says that this project, I mean, that he's selling that, how it looks when people have to buy those glasses for $4,000, right? He says, don't worry. He tells him this won't just be a phenomenon, but a global one, and prices will drop. We're in a technological revolution in soccer. In the 1940s, it was stadiums built to attract large crowds. When I first ran in 2000, the revolution was TV and marketing. That's defined our era until now. Today, it's technology. Florentino may be right. We'll see about that. Because remember the famous virtual reality thing when it exploded and we said, this is going to be crazy in a few years. We're all going to live with glasses and all that. Well, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. But, we'll see. I was going to talk about Negrera, but I'll do it in the next one, man, because this has already gotten too long. I'll do it in the next one. Of course, come on. It's already been 20 minutes. They say I ramble, Miguel Serrano, but there's just so much to say. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support really helps, especially during these turbulent weeks. See you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Bye.